Okay, so we're here for Sunday over here again. This is first weekend of June, June 3rd here in Nairobi, Kenya. We had to go to the Nairobian, which focuses on Nairobi, and the Sunday Nation, which focuses on the entire country. These two headlines did catch my eye. There was a Sunday Standard there too, but the Standard was just talking about Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta, the president, and the head of the opposition, their ongoing moves to try to get people in power, try to get their people in power, and also just angle for these next 4 years of Uhuru Kenyatta's second and last term, unless the constitution is changed, which does happen, but I don't think it's going to happen. Anyway, and then of course this other article caught my eye. Viagra killed Otieno Kajwang. So let's just start here with Nairobian and see what they have here, and then we'll get to the other one over there. So, sweetest taboo. Senator's blood had traces of sex-enhancing and hypertension drug. So now this is just a thing where I don't know why he was taking that. That might be there in the article. Might check out that article later, but right now just checking out the covers and the headlines. And just going to, there have been complications with this. And there was some guy on YouTube, TLDR. He's been having a series on this thing called Aji, which is this drug, supposedly the female Viagra, and even packaged it as pink. Which why? Playing on the blue pink, you'd think in the current year they would kind of change the thing and like, oh, it's sexist to have it pink if Viagra is blue. But I think there are some basic things. But then I've mentioned this before, I've written about this before. In the past, there was actually boys and stuff like that used to wear red and I think this was back in the 50s or something. They used to wear red and rose and those kind of colors in the hospital. And then the females, the girls used to wear blue. And then it changed over, I don't know if it changed due to the dye that was needed during the wars. This might have been before the 50s, but those colors did switch over at the time. But right now, it's not against social convention to kind of tell that, hey, some people wear certain colors and some people wear certain other colors. But then it's also now that's a thing of, I think, first world countries. That's a first world problem. It's a first world convention. Because here you'll see school kids, just boys, girls, doesn't matter. A boy will be wearing some sneakers with some pink on them. Then you'll see a kid with like a Hello Kitty, like some 7-year-old kid just with a Hello Kitty bag. Because he just needs a bag. For him, it's just like, I need a bag to put my things in and carry to school. It doesn't get to the point where it's like, oh, I need a fashionable bag. It's just like, I have a bag. It's not like he goes to school and gets teased for it. I doubt this happens. You see the basic kind of bag is normally just like a basic canvas type, just not the khaki type, but that military khaki, the darker green one. Those are the kind of basic bags that people have here in Kenya. That if you go and you buy, that's what you get. I mean, they haven't gotten to the point yet where kids are like styling and fashionable. And yeah, this isn't your average school, like the school just across the way there. But if you go, I guess, to the higher class schools where the people in the middle class, upper middle class, and the upper class go to school, maybe they're already into the whole fashion and things like that. But from my experience to seeing your average kid, the colors doesn't really matter. But anyway, that whole tangent was about Aji, and Aji had a lot of issues. As this drug that was being pushed as a female Viagra had a lot of issues, but due to the amount of money that was taken to developing it, they're doing all the tests, finding that it was finding that it had some really horrendous effects if you drink and you take it. So like if you drink and you take it, you almost black out. You have like these parts where you don't remember what's happening. So they're trying to repackage it and put it out in the market. It's legal in Canada now, I think. So if you're in Canada, please avoid that drug. Don't go out and have it if you're a female. Um, but yeah, it's pretty much said it has the same effect as Rohypnol. And Rohypnol is a roofie, that date rape drug. So that's what they're taking, and it's really going to hurt a lot of people. And then you have these kind of things over here with Viagra. Now with Viagra, it's hypertension. I think that has something to do with your blood, because it's going to make, I think, your blood vessels smaller. Is it smaller or bigger? But anyway, it makes it easier for the blood to move to different extremities of your body. So that can cause, I think, stress on your heart and your body and your system, your cardiovascular system. We don't know what he was doing while doing that. He could have been drinking, he could have been doing other things. You can look at the swelling of his face. He doesn't necessarily look like overweight, but you can see this kind of swelling. Normally, for me, I can kind of tell, yeah, somebody drinks. Probably not eating the healthiest food. So a combination of all those things just to be able to have intercourse. You can have intercourse, but then you die. I mean, there's a drive, I guess, we have in humanity to do that, to push that. But yeah, we'll get to that drive and how that drive can be very harmful. It's a natural thing, but can also be very harmful. Okay, so the best and worst dressed politician in Bunge. So Bunge, I don't know if Bunge means the government. See, I need to get my Swahili better. Some of these things, but I think Bunge just means in the government. But yeah, we'll get to that. So this is fashion cops. This Nairobian is more, I think, like the New York Post. The New York Post had an article. It was like three different titles about Kim Kardashian and Donald J. Trump meeting for what's it called, for prison reform or something like that. It was like Trump meets Rump, then some other things. So it's that kind of thing where it's like, yes, it's reporting, but it's a little sensationalist and it's focused on a certain group of people. Yeah, so this is so Fashion Cop that's going to be in there. Uh, Home and Away, Ruto man chooses wife from $100 million mansion and chases wife from $100 million mansion and marries MCA. So who's MCA? I don't know. This you see, this is more sensationalist type thing. I don't know. If you guys want some of these articles, let me know. I don't think I'm going to get into these articles right now. I'm just going to go with the headlines this time, at least on this one. I might check out some of these, and if it's interesting, I'll bring them up later. But yeah, this is just giving you guys an idea of what's going on and what kind of material is put out for the general consumption of the peoples here in Kenya. So, exclusive: the secret love life of Lillian Bogo Amolo and how billionaire Samuel Gichuru stole NYS's boss's wife. Now, NYS, the National Youth Service, this thing has blown up. I talked about this in a few other ones. There were issues with the National Youth Service people. The people who were involved in this, in a billion shilling scandal, a lot of people have been arrested, they've been arraigned, they've been put up in court, and the way they do it here, they publicize it on TV. This one, at least, it's a big deal. So it was on TV. They come out and then they announce everybody's name. The person comes in front of the court, in front of the judge, and I think that's when they're actually officially charged with what they're going to do. So this is going to be an ongoing criminal case to try to see if we can actually get if Kenya can actually address some of the corruption that's going on. So it's one thing that I've been also talking about, the comparison of what's happening in developed countries like the United States of America with the Mueller thing and with seeming impunity for people like Hillary Clinton, even though I think as we go on, what President Donald J. Trump is doing, is going to start draining the swamp, is going to start getting some of these people. I still don't think Hillary Clinton will actually see jail time, but I think people related to her will see jail time. I definitely think she will get to the point where she is this persona non grata when it comes to politics, when it comes to Bunge. But I think people already have that kind of people on the Democratic side already like Hillary just go away. No, grandma, you're embarrassing me, grandma. No, you can't tell her like just shut up and go away because it's grandma. But they're like, don't worry what grandma says. That's just grandma. Hey, it's that kind of thing. I think you're already in that kind of place. So here, girl stabs ex for refusing to quench her fire. Yeah, so this is the whole thing. There's violence in both in both situations, in both genders. And okay, so back to the National Youth Service boss's wife. I don't know if this is a boss's wife, but that's the National Youth Service boss. I think he's the guy that was arrested now. And there's a lot of people. That's a case that I think you're going to hear a lot about. The National Youth Service. I said in a previous one that it was more like the National Guard. But it's a bit like the National Guard because you see the military people involved in it. But it expands more into society where it does youth programs, training for people to do other things. And I guess the National Guard does kind of do that in the United States of America, junior ROTC. So it's kind of similar to that, but they do a lot of things all around the country, supposedly to help youth and give youth training on how to register jobs, how to do certain skills, certain pastimes and become gainfully employed. So there's all these kind of things that is involved in, and a lot of money has been funneled into that. I think Kenya has about 75% of the population is under 30 years old. That's a massive amount of people. So when you have that many people supposedly being serviced by a state institution, that state institution will be able to call out a lot of money from it and now do what they want with it from there. So, but back to this dry spell. Girl stabs ex for refusing to quench fire. So you see a lot of salacious things here. I mean, it's like, okay, that's involving Viagra, that's sex involved. This is involving some marriage. That's kind of involved with something in there. Okay, best dressed fashion copy, yeah, whatever. That's not really there. Here, again, chasing somebody out by marrying somebody else. It's marriage again. Here again, sexual situations where it's like he wasn't getting any, and instead of going somewhere else, she stabs the ex. I don't know if he killed him, but yeah. So that's it for the Norwegian. Let's see what's on the back. Sports Bessa, sports betting. You can see more getting married. Some lifting things. Yeah, this is one thing I definitely have seen here in Kenya, which I'm glad about. I'm encouraged with this. Is we're getting a situation where now we have more people actually going to gyms and working out here in Kenya, because people in general eat a healthier diet than people abroad. Abroad is just United States of America, first world countries, and they walk more in general. But you see people who are just like, yeah, we're slimish, but we're not really like in shape. But now you're getting a situation where we have people here where now we have Kenyan females going out and working out. And I think in the gyms, it's still actually more women going out and working out than the men. In my experience, when you go to a gym, there's still a lot of women. You'll find like the same few guys that go repeatedly. But when I was at one gym here, it was like the people who would come more often it was like half and half actually. So yeah, good thing to see it's going on here. So encouraged by this. Now, let's get to the Daily Nation, the Sunday Nation, which is normally the Daily Nation. So, the first headline, major headline over here, outrage over rape at top city school. Now, this is one thing, I hear people in the United States of America talk about how there's a rape culture there. And then some people who say there's no rape culture in the United States of America, there's a rape culture in developing countries. And I also want to say, no, there is not a rape culture in developing countries. Male and female relations may be in a different kind of way, where it's like a different way to communicate with somebody. Just like if you go to New York City and you talk to a woman there, and you see your average New York City female woman, if you're trying to actually go out and what's it called? And court this person, in general, you're going to approach that person differently than if you went to like a small town in Alabama and tried to court that person. There would be different kind of rules and expectations. And that's one thing I've experienced from moving around in different countries and different continents. Just growing up, especially when you're a kid and you're growing up in school, you're trying to understand how do you actually relate to this person in this environment? What's the communication? What are the back and forths? There are certain basic actual aspects of interactions that people have, but some are definitely very unhealthy. Now, you have a situation like this, outrage over rape at top city school. If it is a rape culture, there is no outrage. You know, you look at the situation that happens in jails. There's a lot of, in the higher security jails in the United States of America, there was this one YouTube channel called Fresh Out about some guy, Big Herc, talking about, I'm laughing a bit because of just the way Big Herc says this thing. He says busting cheeks. People are always asking about busting cheeks and talking about how the channel is just about getting wig split, not selling wolf tickets, and busting cheeks. And wig split is just catching a beat down, getting beat up in jail. It's not selling wolf tickets is talking ished, you know, talking out of place, talking about other people, what you did outside, or how big you are. That'll get you your wig split. That'll get you a beat down. And then now busting cheeks is just the whole rape thing, where it's like, oh, if you do this, will you bust cheeks? I mean, a regular question is something like, oh, if Kanye talked about what he did about the black community in jail, would he get his wig split? Or yeah, would Bill Cosby get his cheeks busted in jail or something because of him having these allegations? And he's been found guilty of some of them, right? Of the actual situations of drugging females and having sexual relations with them. So he'll ask about that. And even in jail, he's talking about how, yes, I know it's said that. It definitely happens. He said that. People in jail know it happens and they don't really go out. It's not like, oh, we found out this prisoner was raped and then the guards go in and make sure they catch the people who raped the person. So even there's no outrage out there. But he even said even in there, it's not that frequent. And now this is something I might talk about in a separate video. I've been meaning to talk about this before. Is just people talking about how there's a rape culture in the past. How people would come in militarily and they'd take over a place. And you have things like the rape of Nanking in Japan. Not in Japan, it happened in China during the World War II, where there was a situation during the wars. They came out to Nanking, took over the place, killed a lot of people, civilians. There was a lot of injuries and deaths on the Japanese side, crazed a decent population of the Japanese soldiers, and they went in and committed a lot of horrendous, horrible rapes and were actually targeting people completely for it was genocidal type of situation. So you have that kind of situation where I do agree that definitely does happen in wars. That definitely is a situation that happens. But then when you expand from there, after that, you also have situations like war brides, where people are talking about, oh, we used to talk about this in the prehistory. We used to talk about in prehistorical situations, not prehistorical situations, but pre-modern era situations. You'd go, you'd have some warlords. They would come to a village. They would wipe out most of the fighting age men in that village, and then they would rape all the women and just take the women away and just keep raping all these women. I say no. I don't really think that would happen. What would happen in that situation? People were living a lot closer to I don't want to say to nature because we're still natural. We just have more protections from the basic realities or the basic functionalities of nature. Whereas if you think about a lion, when a lion comes into a pride, it kills the male. It fights off the male in that pride, chases it off, normally kills the kids of that male, and the females in that pride don't run off with that male. They don't like get raped by that new male. They just switch allegiance over to that new male because that new male has proven himself to be stronger than the male that was there before. And those females are more interested in reproducing and having stronger children. So that's not, I'm not saying that those female didn't have some kind of attachment to that male, because if that other male had maintained and fought that other one, those females wouldn't be like, that guy almost beat you, so we might go check him out. No, they'll stay. So when you get into this situation with the wars and things like that, it's not like these females are like, oh, yeah, we're not going to be upset that our men would died. But it becomes a situation where they decide, I'm going to sit here and be upset that my male, all the males that were in my village died. The father of my children died. I'm going to sit here. Let's say it's a 20-year-old female. She's had one or two kids or something with a male that actually fought in that battle and was killed by this new horde of men. Now, she can sit there and say, I'm going to stick with my man. And then what? What happens? She might get raped, first of all. Then even if she's not raped, and the people are like, okay, you're not going to come with us, we're going to leave you here. How is she going to fend for herself? How is she going to fend for her kids? In most cases, she might just switch her allegiance over to the new people that are there. That's a thing that unfortunately happens. It's a reality of life. The man themselves, if you lose a battle to some other man, you can lose a lot more than your life. You can lose your wife, you can lose your kids, you can lose your way of life in that kind of sense. Now, that's the thing with the females. If you pick a male that is not as strong as another male, they can come in and they can be defeated by another male who can take the resources away that is supposed to supply to your family. So there's that kind of questioning that's in there. So I think when people talk about what rape is, you need to talk about rape in the kind of way. And I think all cultures and society that I see that go on, they do agree that rape is a horrible thing. I still have not found a culture, at least I have not lived in a culture, in an area where I think rape, actual rape, of somebody coming in and forcibly holding their sexuality on somebody else is a situation where it's like, hey, that is something that is not outrageous. I think by definition, rape is something that is outrageous. If it is not outrageous, I don't want to say if it's not outrageous, it's not rape, because I guess the people who are raping in some situations don't really consider it outrageous. But I think in some cases they actually are trying to make it outrageous. Now, yeah, I've said that word a lot in this. This might get flagged. I hope not offending anyone. Just trying to talk about different situations and issues here. But now getting to this story. This is Moi Girls School in Nairobi. This is one of the top schools. Moi Girls. Moi is named after. Moi is the second president of Kenya, and this is one of the major schools out there. So as I was talking about before, the schools where you go, where your average people are just wearing regular clothes, regular bags, they're just wearing, I just need something to carry myself to school. Here you'd have the kind of kids who are more upper class and they might have actual ability to be like in the fashionable thing. So this is a situation where, of course, whenever it happens, if somebody's in the upper class of society, there's classes in every kind of culture that we've seen. The people in the higher class will actually get more attention than the people in the lower class. This has been happening at the smaller school. I've still seen stories about it happening at smaller schools and coming up, but front page news, this is one of the top schools in the country. That's expected. You can see here, these are some, I think government security, GSU, government security unit, or office, GSO, government security officers, but you see military and police walk around in Kenya occasionally with these AK-47 type rifles, and they just open carry. You see it happen. The shooting is not that frequent of a thing here in Kenya. You don't see them with pistols often. I see them more often with these guns than I see them with pistols, with actual rifles and things like that. But you see they're here securing the situation. But 8 months after Moi let's get into the title. Okay, 8 months after Moi, Nairobi girls lost 11 students to a dormitory fire. The institution is in the news again over a sex attack that has left parents in shock. So, the fires in the schools has been something that has been happening sporadically. I think yearly there's a couple of fires all over Kenya in schools. Most of the schools, even from a very young age, like Moi girls, I think is high school age. You also have people even before that, but there's a boarding school type of thing. I don't know if this is a carryover from, I think from being a British colony, where in England, the United Kingdom, they still have boarding schools as a major thing. So that was brought over here, and now this is a regular thing. People send their kids off to boarding schools already in middle school. It's only like, yeah, I'm sending my kid miles away to like another county or another place, hours away to go, and then they stay in dorms, and then they come back home during vacations, and it's normally like a three months on, you have a month off, 3 months on, you have a month off, 3 months on, and you have a month off. That's how the school year goes here in Kenya. So you have this situation where there's some fires. I guess people, they could be bad wiring, there could be people having some electrical things inside there. It could be people actually lighting candles. I know in some situations, people are in some of the smaller in the smaller schools, and even the small schools, even it could be a big school like this, they're lighting the rooms with candles and lanterns and things like that. In some situations, it's actually people setting fire to the schools. And there was a time back where, I don't know if it's still happening in Sweden, where I was looking, Sweden had a much smaller population, 8 million people or something, and then Kenya has 45 million people. And there was definitely a higher number, I think it was a few years ago, there was a higher number of school fires in Sweden than there was in Kenya. So I'm wondering, why were people setting fires to school in Sweden? Was it related to why people were setting fires to school here in Kenya? And I think there's also a situation of just how comfortable kids are with that education. Now, I personally am more of an advocate of homeschooling, and I wouldn't really advocate so much sending your kids out when they're that young. But hey, that's your decision to make. I suggest before you do it, you look into it. And I've definitely seen an increase. I've seen more advertising of homeschooling here in Kenya, which is, again, with like the lifting thing I saw back there, it's encouraging me to see that changes I think are positive are coming. So let's get back to this title. So a shocked parent outside of Nairobi Girls' School in September last year after a fire incident that left 11 students dead, right? That's right here. And the low wall next to a club that was demolished recently. Police suspected thugs jumped over the wall to sell alcohol and drugs to students after empty beer cans were found at the scene. So right here, with this article, I might actually go in and give it a quick read after we're done with these and see, just kind of update you guys on it, because I think this might be something that's interesting to you guys. Let me get through those. So right here, it's seeming that it might not have been the teachers doing it, but this might have been a situation where this is in an area right in the city. It's in the, I want to say, not the it's in the Kileleshwa Lavington area, if I'm not mistaken. And there's like a rugby club near there. There's bars, and it's a mixed residential area. It's a residential commercial. So it seems here now people are coming in there and sneaking in and giving them alcohol and drugs to students. Empty beer cans were found at the scene. So this could have been one incident. This could have been multiple incidents. We'll see when we get to that article. But this is interesting to kids, and I think people are concerned with kids. A lot of things in life are due to reproduction. Then a lot of things go from there with concern on how the kids are raised. But I think a lot of mistakes are made out of those positive concerns. But yeah. So as I mentioned, these are the two political principles, the President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, of course, and the Secretary of Uhuru, Butchers, Fland and Foyle. So President Uhuru Kenyatta's newfound oomph and authority is not by accident. The president, looking to leave a legacy in his final term, has engaged a team that has altered his modus operandi. This has surprised even close allies. So that whole situation, just having the handshake with Raila, was something that surprised even his close allies. And now from then on, he stuck to it. He said, okay, I'm trying to work with this man. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with it. I think this is an interesting time. I mean, it's almost always an interesting time in politics in all countries if you actually look at it. Excuse me for that. But yeah, so here you can see the guys kind of working together and trying to figure out what's going to happen. So a lot of people in his side, because there's been a lot of partisan politics. Now, I don't know if they're going to do partisan in a different way, where it's still like, hey, we're the two head guys that's been running for a while, so we're going to get our people in. But this is at least cutting across tribal lines in a sense. But even within his group, it was like a union of certain tribes would be on Uhuru's side and certain tribes on this side. But let's see what's going to happen with this. Now, right here with Raila Odinga. And this is the thing: a lot of supporters of Raila Odinga are very upset with what's going on. A lot of supporters of what Uhuru is doing are very upset with what's going on. Just from seeing that, that already makes me kind of like, yeah, let's keep doing what's going on here. Because in political situations, I think when you have people who are just like one side or the other, if one side is just very happy and the other side is very upset, it's kind of like, I don't know, I don't know what's going on with that. But here, I think as they're building this together, there's both sides kind of like, okay, let's try to get our, it's new ground. I think it's new ground for Kenyan politics in this sense. Hopefully, maybe, kind of, sort of, not really. Don't listen to me. Okay. Making of a statesman. ODM leader was loved and hated in equal measure thanks to his kind of politics. However, the man known for his street protests has lately morphed into an unifying figure. Ordinarily, he would have pushed for a referendum, but he has chosen to await advice from Unity Team. And this change is not just locally. His role as mediator in South Sudan has been welcomed by both rebels and governments. So he's a respected statesman in the area. He's been here for a while. He's in his 70s. And you can see right here, there's strife in South Sudan. After South Sudan became an independent country, it's been continuing with war and civil war. I don't know if it's considered an open out civil war right now, but it's a hot war. People being shot, people being killed, and they're continuing to try and mediate that situation. And Raila Odinga is helping with that there. So there's that kind of situation. And as you see here, they're saying he's been divisive before, but now this Unity Team. So let's see what's happening with this Unity Team. Right here, speaking about division and lack of unity and people being respected by certain people pissing people off on one side, we have Barack Obama here. And I did post a video recently about Roseanne Barr, who was a celebrity actress, comedian in the United States of America, saying something about a former advisor of Barack Obama, Valerie Jarrett, talking about how she looks like if the Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes had a kid, and how people freaked out. And a crazy thing about this there's several things about this. First of all, I think a positive thing about this for people who are supporters of Trump who might be thinking like, oh, this is ridiculous that Roseanne is losing her show for saying this on her private time. And one thing is, Barack Obama has been coming out all this scandal-free presidency. It's being proven to have been a complete fabrication. There's a lot of scandals coming out. The amount of spying that the FBI was doing on the Donald J. Trump campaign is one of the key things out right now. This Valerie Jarrett thing coming out is putting Valerie Jarrett back on the public sphere. So people are going to start looking and saying, okay, who is Valerie Jarrett again? They're going to start bringing more people out that were involved with Obama. I think at a time when Obama, if I was advising Obama, I would suggest to lay low. I mean, maybe it doesn't really matter if you lay low because the stuff's going to come out anyway. So maybe they say, hey, let's keep going out there and battling. I'm not a politician, so I don't understand the ins and outs of these things. But to me, it's going to bring Valerie Jarrett out. They're going to start looking into what Valerie Jarrett did. We're going to start looking into Valerie Jarrett's relations and friends and network. And then you're like, hey, there's a lot of communists in this, there's a lot of this and this. And they're going to start realizing that, hey, maybe he wasn't as good as we think he was. Another thing I saw was on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah and other sources. I think even there was a CNN article or something about it. There was a CNN Brooke B. I don't say Brooke Baldwin. That sounds like somebody that used to do things on E Network, but something. She's an anchor on CNN and CNN and also with Trevor Noah. They're talking about how there's double standards. How when you have people on the political left like Samantha Bee, who came out and said and called Ivanka Trump, who's an advisor to President Donald J. Trump, also his daughter, called her a C word, C-U-N-T. That's supposedly a very big insult to some people, and she wasn't fired. So there was some apology to that. Then you have someone like Keith Olbermann, who has called the president horrible things, MFer and things like that, expletives. He's getting hired by ESPN, getting hired by other people. I think he was hired back at CNN or something. But anyway, just showing how people on the political left can hurl these insults. They don't get fired. They maybe might give an apology here. They keep their job. People like Roseanne Barr, they get fired for saying things. Now, I'm talking about this. I don't think people should get fired for this, but I'm not really against companies firing people for it. A company should be able to do whatever it wants. I don't think what people say. I think it's better to just keep the people on if I was a company, I would probably keep the people on. I mean, you have to check your what's it called? Check your demographics. Will it actually reduce my demographics if I do this? If it does, and you think I'm going to fire people for what they say on their private time, and then it turns out these people get into the market and somebody else is like, I don't care what you say in your private time as long as you can deliver at work, and that person hires that person, that business will do better than yours, and then you'll end up losing out. Or if you want a situation where you say this is our behavioral. This is what you have to do to work in our workplace. Then you either stick to the rules or you lose your job. Again, I'm not against that. That is your prerogative as a private individual in a private business to set the rules that you guys want to relate with together and have that. What's that term? I'm thinking about that term where it's like you associate with each other willingly. Willing associate. There's actually a term there that it's actually supposed to use. But yeah. So anyway, with Barack Obama, there's been some issues coming out. Now this is bringing people back out, bringing people back from Barack Obama's history back into the news. So bringing Valerie Jarrett out, I think, is a more positive thing. People are going to be like, it's not really going to take away attention from what he did, what his administration did in spying on Donald J. Trump. Now, let me ask you guys. He's coming to visit Kenya in June 16th. You guys want us to keep him? You want Kenya to keep him? I know a lot of Americans would like just keep him. Let him not come back. But he's going to. Here it says former U.S. president will tour Kogelo village before flying to South Africa for a public lecture. Now, Kogelo village is where his father was from. He still has relatives and things like that in Kogelo village. So the last time he came to Kenya, I was here and they blocked off some major highway and he stayed at Villa Pamphili, which is like this. I think it's Villa Pamphili. No, Villa Pamphili is a park in Rome. He stayed at Villa something, Villa de la Rosa. It's this new hotel or something, and they blocked off Wayaki Way. So I'm interested to see, and that shut down a lot of commerce. It was like a few days they did this. It shut off a lot of commerce in Westlands, which is another major commercial area, residential area. So I'm interested to see what the kind of reception is going to be for a former president now. He still has a Secret Service detail and things like that, but let's see if it's going to be as big of an issue. I think Kenyans is still good to have. I saw somebody with like Kenya loves Obama shirt on, but as I said, just the same thing with what's it called, with backpacks and things like that, just being things people wear. That's the same thing with shirts. People wear a shirt. Someone wear like a Batman shirt or a shirt from the championship team. Or, I'm just like, I want to start asking people, where'd you get that shirt? In most cases, people just bought this shirt. It's a clean shirt that they have. It's a shirt that works. If it was cheap, they bought it. They have no really connection with what's on the shirt. So when you're marketing certain things in certain places to certain people, for some people it's just the gear. It's just vestiti. It's just it's maglietta. I think maglietta is just a t-shirt. It's just something to cover your body. That's what they're using it for. They're not really using it for the fashion statement and things like that. And then, of course, as you see here, fashion cop. There are some people that fashion definitely is a thing, but I think fashion is a thing. Like the politicians definitely are the wealthier people in the country. So it gets to a point where some people are at that point, and I think that's a small part of the population. Where in Kenya, the amount of population is actually going into fashion and weightlifting and those kind of things like that. That's probably 10% of the population that really cares about that. Most of them live in cities. Now, when you go to somewhere like the United States of America, the amount of people that actually care about fashion and things like that, I think it goes now to like 60% of the population. But I think those are some of the differences that you see in developing countries and developed countries. But anyway, so back to this thing. How did I get to some of these tangents? I don't know. That's how my brain works. This is like Sunday over here. This is where the article kind of goes. So right here, it's a rough ride for MPs in Ruto camp. Ruto is the vice president to Uhuru Kenyatta. When Uhuru Kenyatta had the handshake with Raila Odinga, Ruto was left out in the cold, and he's been trying to get his way back in. So now, if Ruto himself was left out, Ruto had that way to hold people together in his camp, hold people together by saying, I'm the vice president, I'm probably the next person coming in. Now with this alliance with Raila, we don't know who's going to come in next. So now will Raila take over after this? Will he catch enough? Like, you know, when you're drifting behind a car, like in NASCAR and racing, you're drifting behind, one car's driving here, the next car's driving behind you, you're kind of in the slipstream, and it gets to a point where this happens in cycling too, where now you cut off, you're saving energy, and then you can cut off and swing out in front of it. So Ruto was definitely solidly behind Uhuru Kenyatta until that handshake, and now with him losing his power or his status, people who are under him are now starting to wonder, like, hey, what's going on? Should we wait and see what's going to happen with these two people, with two principals, and then realign under that, or should we stick with Aruto? So that's the kind of situation that's happening there. There's some difficulty in that situation. So Equity Bank makes strides in provision of clean water, and one of the major issues here in Kenya is water. The only really natural disasters that happen is there's either too little water or there's too much water. And then now the quality of that water. You can have a whole lot of water. You have places where there's a lot of water, but there's no potable water. Potable water is this water you can drink and do things with it. And this another random thing that I thought of. I cook a lot, and I was thinking about how much cuisine actually has to do with actually just having access to a lot of water. If you're actually just saving the amount of water that you have, think about most of the things that you consider to be cuisine. Not just, hey, I'm scrambling some eggs, some basic type of thing. But if you go to a point where it's like, I am actually making a meal that's cuisine-wise, you have to clean the vegetables in a certain way. You normally have to cook the foods in a lot of water, things like that. I don't know. I was just thinking of the different kind of things that actually considered cuisine, and I think it involves a lot of ability to use a lot of water in a lot of situations. Now that just might just be water itself is one of the first things you have to have in certain level of abundance for you to actually be able to do other things with, since it's one of the basics of life, and then now you build other things on it. But yeah, I was thinking how tied that is into it. But yeah, Equity Bank is one of the major banks, and they're one of the few banks in Kenya that actually has an ability for you to have a PayPal account. Now, just talking about that PayPal account thing, how important that is to be just part of the global market of things. I think now Safaricom has a thing, which is the mobile money thing, the mobile carrier. You can do actually some kind of PayPal thing through that. But just having the ability to have a bank account that you can withdraw money and put money in on PayPal is a major thing. And there's a lot of countries in the world where you can't do that. Now, that's something in the first world country. Pretty much any bank you have in the United States of America, you can have a PayPal account. You can start selling things online. You can start buying things online. You can start buying subscriptions to information. So you can already participate in something. Now, having a situation where in Kenya, it takes a while for a bank to actually get vetted to have that kind of situation where they're saying, oh, there's not that much money laundering and things like that going through it. So now we can actually work with that bank. To have only one bank with that, have that kind of limits, it kind of limits the people who are doing that. But then now, as I mentioned with the fashion thing, where it's 10% of the population actually goes to the point where, hey, we care about fashion, or we care about cuisine, we care about things like that. How many people actually care about buying things online? So those are some of the things. So that's it for now. Right now I'm just going to go in and skim over this article and give you guys some kind of input on what was going on with that. But besides that, that's it for Sunday over here. Okay, so as mentioned, this is the title was Outrage Over Rape at Top City School. Now, shock as girl raped inside city school. Now, Moi Girls School, Nairobi student sexually assaulted on Saturday morning while visiting the latrine. So police are investigating circumstances under which a Form 2 student at Moi Girls School, Form 2 I think is sophomore year of high school, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that's like, that's grade 10 for those in the United States of America. So a Form 2 student at Moi Girls School, Nairobi, was raped by an unknown man in the wee hours of Saturday morning. The student was attacked on the grounds at 2 a.m. when she visited the latrine within the school compound. Her assailant fled, and no arrests have been made by yesterday evening. The student is currently receiving treatment at Nairobi Women's Hospital. The school shut doors to journalists and most parents yesterday, even as girls inside the compound held loud demonstrations against the latest security breach. The protests attracted passerbys and motorists using Joseph Kangethe Road in Woodley. Yeah, Woodley neighborhood. It's a Lavington area. The incident comes 8 months after a fire claimed the lives of 11 girls in the school. The girls died after a fire broke out in the dormitory housing Form 1 students. Now that's freshman year, that's 9th grade. There was an outrage at the school yesterday as parents and guardians sought to get information about the latest incident, which again has exposed the security challenges at one of the city's biggest girls' boarding institutions. So this is a kind of situation where you can see that this way, I think something I've noticed from reading a lot of articles is the repetition of it. So a shock that's said there, then it's repeated here, then it's pretty much repeated here in a different words, and then now some details, then the shut doors to journalists and parents there, about the protest, then it comes here again, then shut doors. I've just seen this kind of technique, and I don't like repeating myself, but maybe that's the way information's actually really gotten. Like, how many times do I have to hear some certain information before I actually understand that, yeah, that's actually the way it is? Now, with just the repetition thing, how many times is something repeated to you without it actually being true, where just because it's repeated, you can actually start thinking that, yeah, it's actually true. But yeah, so here was a picture, an image. This is a picture from the cover. I haven't found any images. Like you said here, it was closed off to journalists. So I think it's been closed off to journalists. And here they've also protected the name of the unfortunate girl that was attacked, which I think is a positive thing. Keep the names away. Hope they catch the person. But here you can see there's one girl who was caught in, and as you can see here, the low wall. This is a wall at the place, so people I guess could jump over. They found beer cans and things like that. So this is a kind of situation where it's like, yeah, people could just be jumping and doing something. This is in the school area. This could have been a situation where people have found. And you see, it's actual outrage, and I think it's a cover page news. This is something that's actually going to get people's attention. And as I mentioned, this is not a rape culture here. And rape is an abhorrent thing. It's outrageous. It should get people's attention. I think even if it's one person, it should still get people's attention. And it's the kind of situation where I do understand part of the positive of humanity. It's going to be more worrying when people aren't outraged by even that one situation than they are just passing by it. Like, yes, you can say it's better than it's been before, but it's still something that does need addressing. So when I do talk about situations like, hey, we need to focus on when it actually happens and how to prevent it, how to punish the actual people who do this, and why it really bothers me about people who make light of it by calling things that aren't actually in that situation of rape to be rapes. I think it kind of lessens how horrible the actual situation is. So yeah, and then I keep seeing these weird stories. One thing that really pisses me off that I'm going to say here normally happens, especially when you're talking about rapes in schools. This happens when it's a female teacher with a younger male, and then you have just these people in the comment sections. Oh, I wish my teacher was like that. Oh, that kid is probably lucky. No, that kid is not lucky. That kid, I do get genders are different, male and females are different in that kind of situation, but it's still a disgusting situation that needs to be addressed in an appropriate way and not in that kind of jokingly way. So let's go here with the end. The structures have gradually been demolished based on, okay, the police officers believe that the route may have been used to supply students with drugs and illegal substances. That's that short wall over there. The structures have been gradually demolished and based on an eviction order issued to the businesswoman Grace Wairimu Sorora and her tenants who have been illegally occupying the land belonging to the former Marquette West MP, David Sudi. So you have these situations where there's these plots of land next to other places that have just been who owns this land, because in the past, still today, there's people just kind of portioned out large tracts of land in different places. Sometimes the people leave the country and then it's like, hey, this land is still owned by somebody else. Deeds weren't really being given out as constantly as they were in other places and other times. So you have situations where, like right now, this is a minister of parliament owned this land and somebody else is squatting on that land. And now since it's just unsecured land, or it's just kind of in the middle of who owns this, who owns that. So there's not that much responsibility over that land. Now you have people, I guess, sneaking in through that land into the actual school and distributing drugs and alcohol. And probably they're saying this might have been the situation where the person snuck in through there. And yeah, so where are the guards? See, they're here saying here, there are guards here, and it's a very stable school. He said. Again, you never know. You never know with the girls. There could have been issues, but this is the time. This is the time. Some could even be trying to evade exams, so they could be taking advantage of that. He told the Sunday Nation. So this is Mr. Michael Muchiri, who is Michael Muchiri here? I should have just read through this straight, shouldn't I? The Kilimani police boss Michael Muchiri told Sunday Nation yesterday that it was amazing how the assailant accessed the school compound. That's amazing because, again, how did it happen? We are trying to check if there are any gaps there. It probably could have been an insider. You can never rule anything out because this is someone who was very, very familiar with the place. We don't know. In an interview with journalists outside the school gate yesterday evening, Mr. Mochiri said the school had enough security. There are guards here and it's a very stable school, he said. Again, you never know with these girls. There could have been issues, but this is the time some might even be trying to evade exams. So they could be taking advantage of that. So he's calling into question whether this is an actual rape or this was just somebody who was having a situation with this bill that was brought in, and then now they're kind of using it as an excuse to miss exams, which I don't know. I'm not going to go either way on that. I have no idea. But yeah, this is a chief of police I imagine if somebody said this if some chief police boss said this in the United States of America, they'd probably get fired. Like in the current climate there. And this is one thing I'm wondering. This first world problem things, is it a situation where here in Kenya, I do hear people say certain things about bad things that happen in Kenya. Hini Kenya. Like this is Kenya. That's just the way that it is part of the United States of America that ability to be really triggered by the smallest thing. Is first world problems part of becoming a first world country? Where if something is even so major, so minor, you have to address it. At least you're complaining enough to address that thing. Where some attention is given to it so it wipes that out and then improves the situation for everyone. Whereas in a developing country, you would need to be a level of discomfort to be 25% or more before it's addressed. Whereas in the United States of America, it's only like 5% and then it's addressed. So it never becomes to the point where it's 20%. You know, if the road is 5% dirty, they'll be like, oh, okay, 5% of my commute is around this mess. We have to deal with this thing before it gets to 10%. Whereas here in Kenya, it would have to be like, okay, half my commute is a mess. So now we have to do something about this. Could there be something in there where it's like, if you have a lower threshold to actually address something, that might make it easier, but then now you're wasting energy addressing things that shouldn't be addressed. I don't know what's happening with that. But yeah, so here they're talking about the different situation. The parents visit the schools to check on their daughters. At least it was just one girl. It wasn't a lot of people, so that's an excellent situation to find out. The detectives are on this. Last of the school, so the demolished premises. Back to last year's fire incident, detectives have been questioning owners of the premises near the institution. The demolished premises, which were located on a parcel of land that has been subject of a court tussle for more than 10 years. And so the demolition was taken out with the things, and that kind of showing how the arson people got in. So now they're tying those two stories in. They finished off talking about how, okay, so here I was talking about how these are the people coming in with things. But no, this could have been a situation where, hey, these were actually people that were involved with school fire. So there could have been situations tied in with that. You can see here, further police found empty bottles of alcohol, a substance believed to be drugs, in gunny bags and cigarette filters on the side of the fence where the school field is. And there was a bar here called Zamzam, and behind it was a lodging and a wines and spirits shop before the demolition. It was hard to discover the broken wall. Also on the other side of the school, you cannot easily see it because there is a thicket. However, there is a clear footpath and other things showing that there could have been some activity, and police conducting the investigation said. And that activity is people sneaking into that place. Now, this is something I have known of from knowing people who did go to schools and things like that. They would sneak out. Some people would sneak out of the schools and go to, I guess you're in a city, so they would go to these bars and they go to things like this, and things would happen. So yeah, this is just the ins and outs. So that's the article. That was it for Sunday over here. Thanks for listening. Let me know what you guys think. And again, if you guys want any other articles actually discussed, you can let me know, and I'll go into more details with some of them. Let's finish off with these fashion cops thing, page 22. Let's see. I'm just going to finish off with just showing you guys the fashionable politicians that we have here. Best and worst dressed politicians in Kenya. Here we go. That's president right there. Camel pants. Yeah, it's not too much. It's some traditional gear more. But yeah, that's the fashionable politicians. Worst dressed. That's rough. And this is one thing that I've discussed about with politicians in general. I was just thinking, why don't politicians just go back to everybody wearing suits, this general color, like maybe just dark colors and things like that, and then, or just go back to like togas like they had back in Rome. So it's just kind of a simple thing. Everybody just kind of looks like the basic thing, and you're not focusing more on all these like different kind of things. And I think in this situation, females definitely have a advantage over men on what they can wear. It changes in African countries because you can go with a lot of more color and things like that. But in general, in the United States of America, in the West, You see the females have the ability to wear different colors and different outfits, and it attracts attention. Like if you're up there on a debate and you're able to make yourself up, wear jewelry, wear bright colors, wear these kind of things, you can be fashionable in that sense and attract more attention. Yet it can also be a two-sided dagger where you can make a fashion faux pas and then it looks a lot off. Whereas with men, it's just like you wear the suit. Then it's like Donald J. Trump. It's like, hey, his tie's too long. Okay, what? It's still a suit. It's just like that. Whereas you with somebody else, you'd be like, oh, Hillary Clinton, you're wearing orange. Lock her up. So it's kind of like it's a double-sided sword. Yeah. So that's it. Like, share, and subscribe. This was Sunday over here, June 3rd. Silas saying bye.